Hey,
Kimberly,
Randy.
how's it going there,
Long,
lady?
Randall. How you
How's it
doing?
going? I'm doing well. Nice to see you.
Good.
Nice clear picture of you. You look beautiful as ever.
I mean, you're a special guest, so I had to like shower and actually comb my hair for you today. I hope you feel, I did this all for you.
I feel special. Let me tell you something. Just to get up, to have an excuse to take a shower these days, at
Oh
least in the
my
morning, right?
gosh. I was like,
It's
I
pretty
actually have to
wild.
comb my hair. This is amazing. It feels so good to like comb my hair today and put some makeup on. It's amazing.
It's nice to have an excuse. How you feeling? Feeling good?
Yeah, I feel good.
Good.
Just, trying to keep motivated every day. And,
Sure.
you know, it's funny, I was just kind of thinking through some of the various things that we've gone through throughout our entire careers. And I was like, why don't we talk about some positive stuff? You
Yeah.
turn on the news, we're in a pandemic. We're aware we're in a pandemic. You go
Yeah.
online, everybody's like, we're in this pandemic. And I'm like, yeah, I know. So let's talk about some positive stuff. I was
I
in a
like it.
forum, I was in a forum the other day, and someone said to us, it was a group of wedding professionals actually, and somebody said, you guys aren't looking very happy right now for people who are in the happiness business.
Hmm.
And they're like, this is the happy factory. And I was like, that's something to be said about that. And that's kind of what sparked some of this, is that I don't think we're focusing a lot on, obviously, on the restaurant business, hospitality, which you know very well. But I don't think people are really understanding the effect it has on us event professionals and how
Right.
much we contribute to a lot of that.
Right.
We're responsible for a lot of emotions and a lot of memories. We're memory makers,
Hmm.
when we think about all the things that we do. So I was like, let's just have a conversation about it and see where it leads us. And maybe it will spark some ideas and inspire other people, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah,
You know?
I think your points are well taken. I think, everybody's been hyper focused on the greatest number of people who've been affected, and that obviously is restaurants and hotel and hospitality workers. And then I think eventually people will wake up and say, "Oh yeah, what about the events people? They also kind of are having a tough time as well." And there'll be at some point where I would imagine there'll be some campaigns out there and some appeals to try to help bring a little bit of relief, because the events business is gigantic, as you know. I mean, it really touches a lot of people from the guest and from the client, but just the infrastructure of the events business itself, I'm really impressed
It's
with how many
massive.
people are involved in it. I mean, it's really, really a massive industry.
Yeah,
And I think everybody's kind of like trying to figure out exactly what's next. I think it's a little early to try to figure that out at this point, because I think there's so much that's still raw.
yeah,
But here's one thing that I do feel genuinely comfortable with, and that is that we will figure it out, and that human beings, because we are creatures that are comfortable in our habits, will get back to wanting to celebrate life, and that celebration
absolutely.
oftentimes is the event itself. So I think,
Yeah.
listen, I think we have some troubling and some challenging times ahead, but I think we'll slowly see ourselves pull out of it. But I'm with you. Let's focus on some positive stuff, and
Hmm.
I know that good people are having great dialogues, yourself included, and there's some really smart people in this industry, and I know that they'll get out in front of it, and I hope to be part of that conversation as well.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
for thanks everybody for joining. I see a bunch of people waving to us, people that are near and dear to us, and some that are new. So just to kind of recap a bit, tell us a little bit about you. We've known each other now maybe too long.
Yeah,
We don't
long
necessarily
time.
want to say. I think we're probably bordering the 15-year mark at this point.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and you have an immense amount of experience in the hospitality business. So let's kind of give some people some insights into kind of where you started and how Cream started, which by the way I think is one of the most phenomenal names you could have ever come up with for what you guys do. I don't think I've ever told you that, but it's true.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, my background is pretty varied in this industry, and I came into it a lot later than most people. I mean, I find it's a very young industry, and people typically have either studied it in undergrad or have
Mm,
found themselves immersed in the business at a younger age than I did. I came via law school, started a couple of businesses on my own, very involved in an import-export business, got involved with the retail business, and then finally did what I really always wanted to do, which was to get into the hospitality business. My background was really studying the hospitality model through many different modes. I worked in hotels when I was younger. I worked in restaurants, in the front of the house and the back of the house. And I knew that the hotel business, the hospitality business, the making people happy business was where I wanted to be. And so that's where I found myself in my 40s when you and I met, reaching out to a friend of mine who I'd known for many, many years, Lee Schrager, and having attended as a guest, I said to him early on, I said, Lee, I love this business. I got to get involved somehow. And he was gracious enough to introduce me to some people. You were one of them who I met very early on when we made that first meeting in the office there. I think there were all of 4 or 5, maybe 6 people in that office.
Kimmy, Lorianne, me, they're all online.
Yep, and Andrew Kaplan was there as well. Andrew
Melanie.
Was like, the first guy that I worked with. And so I took everything that I knew about hospitality and wrapped it up into what I was about to embark upon. Cream came 3 or 4 years after I had already been involved in the festival world. After I met my current partner, Callie Bensadon. You know Callie well. I met Callie because she was a rep in an advertising agency, and we started to work together on some websites. And we knew that we had an opportunity to work together because we had this common interest in hospitality in live events. And so we joined forces. Callie came on first as an employee, quickly rose the ranks, and is now a partner of mine in the business. And we've been around, I guess now the business is going on about 15 years now. So it's been a while, and we've seen a lot. We've experienced a lot. We have a beautiful partnership. We have a wonderful team that we've created, and we've been very fortunate. It's been a great ride.
And I think it's testimony to just showing people that it's never too late. It's never too late to follow your passion. It's never too late to just go after what you want. I mean, as you said, you went from law, to hotels. Right. Who jumps that? And from the Jamaican perspective, I think here we're so immersed in events. Like funerals are like major events here. Everything is an event. Everything involves a gathering. Everything involves making a production out of something. So I think it's very important that people recognize that it's not also glitz and glamour, though. It's not. I think we have a misconception here that events make you celebrities. And I think that's because we're so small compared to the US and in Miami and New York. And I'm just grateful for the opportunity to have had the exposure to live in Miami and to work in different states and other countries to see how they do things there, because I think that's crucial. It's critically important. I mean, you've come to Jamaica a few times. What's your perception of the culture here and how things work here?
Well, listen, I went there on business, and I went there on pleasure, and 2 very completely different perspectives. Obviously, from a pleasure standpoint, beautiful, beautiful nation, some of the nicest people I've ever met. And having grown up in Miami, the Jamaican culture was not something that was foreign to me. I had a brother, David, who was very into music. Turned me on to a lot of Jamaican music when I was younger. David was a great influence as far as music goes for me. And he had many Jamaican friends. We had them growing up. And so I hadn't been to the nation yet, but I knew I was going to enjoy it. It's pretty much what I expected it to be. It's people who I feel have a joie de vivre that's different than Americans. They move
Christian
at a
says after Haitians. Don't mean to interrupt you. All right, Christian.
And I actually have been in Haiti also and had a nice visit there. But no, Jamaica, I think, Americans, we get really caught up in the speed of things and how fast we can acquire and how quickly we can get to the finish line. My impression of being in Jamaica, even from a business perspective, it was much more, the pace was a lot more tolerable. An opportunity to sit down and think, to meet with people over meals, and to really kind of investigate getting involved, as opposed to in America, sometimes it's really, really quick, and before you know it, you're at the finish line. But I had really good experiences in Jamaica, and I look forward to going back. And I know you've shown a lot of Americans a great time there. A
Oh
lot of
yes,
people who work in
about
that South
14
Beach
or
office. Yeah.
about 14 or 20 or so.
So you are absolutely in the travel industry yourself as well as a great tour guide. I know that's the case.
The travel and
Um,
tourism degree hasn't gone to waste, Randy.
Without a doubt. I did want to say when you said about coming into the business late, I did want to point out that one of the great things when you said it's never too late is the concept of being able to bring a lot of the disciplines that you learn in other industries and other professions with you as you move through your journey in life and
Mhm.
continue to move towards where you think you want to end up. So the law was never a waste of time for me. The
Yeah.
retail business was not a waste of time to me. It taught me a great deal about how to service a customer and how to meet expectations. Working in
Mhm.
restaurants and working at hotels and then
Yep.
getting involved in the development game and how to move an entire team together in order to reach that next goal, which is to build the building and open it up. All those disciplines come with you in life during your journey. So anybody who may be watching or talking with others, and I know we're going to talk on mentorship,
Mhm.
should never shy away from moving careers and should never be caught up with the fact that they may be leaving so much behind that they can't take with them. Because in fact, you can take a lot with you. I just wanted to make that point. Sorry to go
No,
on that one.
I appreciate that, and I think it's very important because you know, when I graduated high school, like 12th grade is an option in Jamaica. So when I graduated high school, I was 15. And I told my parents, I'm like, I don't want to go to sixth form, which is what we normally do here. I don't really know what I want to do. I know I love being around people. At one point, I thought I was going to be a linguist and I was going to, be an interpreter for the UN. Then I was a fashion merchandiser. Like I went through so many iterations. And my parents were like, all right, you need to figure out what you want to do. And my dad made a call, and I was able to get a job at a brand new hotel, which hadn't even opened yet.
Mm-hmm.
Bearing in mind, I'm just about to turn 16. So I went and I worked at the hotel, and I ended up working in accounting. I worked at the front desk. I worked night audit, overnight shifts. I did a stint in housekeeping, just kind of understanding the entire mechanisms of hotels. And I grew up in a
Mm-hmm.
family that was very big into hospitality. And I had an uncle who I'm close to that was a food and beverage manager. And he was like, this is the direction you need to go in, and this is the way you should do things. And I left there going, I absolutely do not want to do this. I was
Right.
like, I created the tippings, the gratuity system for the hotel, and I went through so many years. And while I'm grateful for the experience, and I think it definitely helped me to build character and understand sacrifice and no long hours, I recognize it's also something I didn't want to do. So I think it's
Mm-hmm.
also important to go through those ebbs and flows and kind of figure out this may not be for me. I may be great at this thing, but this particular mold may not be what I need to fit in. And I've actually had this conversation with Lee. I'm going to be putting out Lee's interview. I had an interview with him on Zoom last week. And it
Mm-hmm.
was insightful because he was like, my motivation is that I'm not a 9 to 5 guy. I need to stay busy. And so I think it's important that you kind of follow your passion, but also follow where your attributes are. So, I went ahead, I went to FIU, which is what gave me this opportunity. And very grateful to Lee Dixon and Lorianne. Big shout out to Lori, who is on there, for giving me the chance. I knocked on that door 5 times to get that internship.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where it's led me 17 years later working on the festival. So I think, I have a travel and tourism degree. I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but I fell in love with events and I fell in love with food because of the festival. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
important to really like take a risk and go out there. And I know that a lot of people are saying that no, during this time you're home, try new things. But it's also hard to do that when you don't have the mentorship and you don't have the people. I feel like we're
Mm-hmm.
humans, and we, especially in this business, you have to love what you do. You're not going to spend the amount of hours that you spend and invest all of the emotion that you have into making people happy and not go through, needing someone to kind of pivot you and say, come on, we can do this, let's rally together. And I think that's one of the things that I really loved about working with you and, being fortunate enough to be just a couple floors from you when I was working at Agency 21 was that we had the opportunity to kind of, bounce ideas off of each other. And we were able
Mm-hmm.
to, we humanized everything. And,
Mm-hmm.
food is emotional. I can't meal prep. And the reason why is because I don't know what I'm going to feel like eating tomorrow. I may not feel like something sweet or something salty. I don't know. It's emotional. It's an emotional connection. And I think that's what events do for us. And we're mourning. We're mourning all of the ideas that we've put into motion for 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, and we're not able to see them to come into fruition. So,
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of that in terms of our discussion as event practitioners, that whether you're a DJ, you're a photographer, we are planners or strategists or marketers, we pour our hearts and our souls into this as creatives. And, even when the festivals end, we mourn it all the time, because it's like we spent a year or 18 months working on this thing, and then it just ends. And it's a piece
Mhm.
of you that goes with it.
Mhm.
So I think it's important to acknowledge that and kind of mourn the loss of that, and then move on and know that there's something else to look forward to, which is what makes it so dynamic.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Absolutely.
and I think segueing into the idea of mentorship, who are your mentors growing up? Who inspired you?
Wow. Having been in so many different businesses, I would say that the mentors that I look to throughout life have changed and been very varied.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly, and I'll concentrate on this business first. The traditional concept of a mentor would be somebody who is necessarily older than you, that has collected more wisdom than you have, somebody who you can look to help formulate ideas, to share contacts, and to help shape your ideas about an industry. Because I came into this industry so late, many of the people who had all of that wisdom were actually younger. So I found myself looking to younger people for mentorship. I mean, Andrew Kaplan was one of the very
Mm-hmm.
first. The very first event I worked on was Kids Kitchen. Lee
Yep.
Schrager said to me, walk outside the office, go introduce yourself to that guy over there. His name is Andrew Kaplan, and tell him you'll be working with him on this new project called Kids Kitchen. Andrew was I was dropped into his lap. Well,
I
let me tell you
remember
something.
that actually.
The guy could not have been more gracious, more generous, and more open in sharing. And to me, that is the three most important attributes of a mentor. Now,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, over the years, as Andrew moved on into a new position, people like Devin Paget was a
Yep.
great mentor, talking about one of the great operations guys in the business, Randy
Absolutely.
Friedman, people who I knew really understood the game that I was playing. And one of the great things about the people that I've come in contact with, and almost all of them in this industry, is that everybody that I have reached out to has been very open in sharing knowledge. And that's
Mm-hmm.
really not normal in a lot of other industries, because
It's
people
not.
are jockeying for position. There's a lot of competition. I didn't find that in this business. Now, maybe it's because I was a little bit older and people reacted to me differently. But I don't want to not mention, the great mentor for me in this business, and that's, Lee Schrager.
Yeah.
Um, Lee started as a friend, a social friend who I knew through family, and had a lot of dinners with him and celebrated some life cycle events with Lee. And then when I started to work with him, Lee became a tremendous mentor for me in the business. There's nobody like him, nobody
Mm-hmm.
who understands the game better than he does, nobody who has the brain to kind of set you up for success and understand what team building is and letting people go out and get it done.
Yeah.
And so he has really been an amazing mentor. And then an interesting relationship and mentorship for me has been um, my relationship with Callie, my partner, who started at the corner of my desk because
I
I didn't
remember
have a
very
desk at the
clearly.
time, right?
You shared a desk.
She soaked up every bit of information and was a superstar. And I realized very early on that she had the brain for this business. And I find myself at this point in my life looking to her as a mentor for certain things that are happening.
Yeah.
And I love that. I mean, that is
Mm-hmm.
really the most fulfilling thing, is to watch somebody blossom into a great leader in the industry, and then to see the role reverse in some cases where you can look to them for information and for mentorship as well. So um, I've had some great mentors over the years, and we have to remember that we have to give back. And I know
Yeah.
that this is critically important to you. Listen, you were a great source of information for me in the early years. And I remember walking up the stairs at the Lowe's with you, and asking you questions like you probably thought I was, what is this guy? You know, what's, and you were so giving in all the information because I said to you, well, now it's over. And you said, no, it's not over. Now the real work begins. And you were, as we were walking up the stairs of the Lowe's, you were telling me about the billing that has to happen, the thank you notes that have to happen, the follow-up with the FIU. And it was like, that helped me expand my brain to get to where I am now. So I appreciate your patience and your giving nature with me as well.
I thank you for
True
that.
story.
Yeah, I mean, it's, oh, thank you. Andrew's on, the great Andrew Kaplan that we've been talking so much about.
Love that guy.
He says, I think it's important
great.
to acknowledge that while I was called a mentor, on the flip side, I've learned just as much, if not more, from you. Oh,
well,
we're in a love.
Let me tell you something. That's to me, that's the circle of mentorship. If that's the case, I mean,
yeah.
I every time I see him, I don't ever call him just a friend, but I call him a friend and a mentor, and I would say the same to you.
Yeah, I think, you know, funny, Jackie Eisen reminds me of that a lot, and I know she's on because she says to me, you were so patient with me when I came into the office and just kind of guided me through the ropes and the process. And I don't know how else to be. And I don't know if that's just from, I give a lot of credit to my parents. They've always been people who have always been very giving and generous and generosity of spirits. And it's never about, you know, what you have, but what you can give to somebody else. And I think that's kind of something for the Jamaicans here. I kind of want to continue to kind of push because I bring up the festival a lot in my conversations. And it's because I think, as you said, you know, we have a very small community, even in Miami or even in New York, the event business, we have a small community, you know, it takes a special kind of person to work in events. I mean, not to like toot our own horns or anything, but not everybody is meant for this. The grind is difficult, and the pay, you're not doing it for the pay. God knows you're not doing it for the financial gain. You're doing it because you see what you do for people and how happy people are when you put something together. And so one of the things that I really want to try to inspire here is that it's collaboration and community over competition. You know, we're so much stronger when we're together, and we're so much more able, we're able to do so much more if we knew that the pool was so large. You know, at the end of the day, the world is huge, and there are so many opportunities, especially for a destination. I mean, Miami is a destination. It's a destination venue, and it's the same for Jamaica. And I just feel like if we were able to collaborate more and just know that what you bring to the table is your strength and nobody can be you, then you don't, somebody may be as competent as you are, but they're not you. So you can still collaborate and do the community thing and do the community sharing and be okay if somebody does well. It's okay if somebody does well. Not everything is meant for you. You know, so that's one of the lessons that I think we would like people to take away from this, is that we are all now on even grounds. Like, if it's anything that COVID has done for everyone, it has leveled every single playing field there is. It has no discrimination for race, for gender, for age, for anything. And we're all crippled. I mean, I had this conversation at home saying, well, if Jamaica was under this, you know, Jamaica was under the pandemic and Orlando was fine, we would have gone on a plane and gone to Orlando. But we can't do that because everybody is feeling the same thing and being affected by the same thing. So I think if anything, we walk away from this feeling humbled, knowing that we're not invincible and that we do need each other. And that we have to go back and give back to one another, you know, and it's okay. It's okay to share. It's truly okay to share.
Yeah. Listen, I mean, look, if we go through this pandemic and all these people who have died, who are sick, who have lost their jobs, and if all of this negative doesn't give us pause to think and something positive come out of it, then the whole thing would have been in vain. And I'm a believer that, I don't know about why this is happening, but I do know that it is going to force people to think about what's important in life. And one of the things, and you alluded to it in life, one of the things that's important in life is this ability to share of yourself and to share of your bounty and to help enrich others with both of those things. Now, many of us are doing it as we dip into our pockets to help a GoFundMe or a meal relief program, and others are doing it in much larger ways. I mean, Lee has, you know, spearheaded a lot of really wonderful things that's helping the restaurant business. And the other way is the giving of your knowledge and the giving and the sharing of your profession. You alluded to the fact that we're all on even playing fields, and I believe that to be the case. My experience in this industry is that for the most part, everybody that I've come in contact with plays very nicely together and is looking to help move the needle towards the more perfect event and the more perfect experience, and yet is humble enough to know that the reaching perfection is never attainable. And so I've enjoyed the associations I've had with every different discipline, whether it's photography and music and design and food and tenting and lighting. I've really enjoyed watching how all those pieces of the puzzle come together through the hard work of many, many different individuals, and then the people on our individual teams, and how that all works together. And we have to remember that when we get back to it, we have to remember the magic that we create while everybody stays in their lane and gives the very best of themselves in their company. We create experiences and memories that you can't duplicate in any other industry. And I'm the first one to argue, and specifically in the culinary field, we can listen to music on a digital platform, we can watch sports on TV, we can watch a great theater performance on a smartphone, but we can't have a great meal unless we're sitting and eating the
together.
Food, right?
Yeah.
And people love the communal aspect of those events when we're eating together. So in the digital world, that's the analog experience, is that sharing of food. And we're going to get back there. And the cool thing about it is all this time that people have to think about life, I hope that they all bring great new concept, great new ideas and creativity to the game, and that we actually see the event space get to a more mature level. And it really does become a positive for us. But I wish it didn't have to be as a result of this COVID-19, because the suffering, the death, and the hurt is just, it's heartbreaking and overwhelming.
Yeah, it's hard to watch, you know?
It is hard to watch, and it's surreal. It's a surreal scenario. I was on a bike ride the other day, and I came within 2 feet of a person I didn't know. And I got to tell you something, I recoiled. Not so much because I thought that I was going to get sick from that person, but that for 6 weeks, or the better part of 5-6 weeks now, I haven't had any interaction with anybody who's not in my immediate family. And it's 4 of us living in our house right now, because 2 of my kids are back from New York and New Orleans and living here. And it was weird. So we have to learn how to re-socialize, you know. It's gonna be an interesting thing, you know.
Especially when we come from a very touchy-feely, you know, especially in Miami and in Jamaica, we're very touchy-feely. We've never seen each other and not given each other a big bear hug. I mean, we were just with each other at the Super Bowl going through, and we saw each other, and I like ran and jumped on top of you because I was like, oh my God, I didn't know you were going to be here. So how do we get back to that? You know, but that's our we get back to that? That's our human instinct though, you know? So I think, yes, we talk about people going through discrimination and, you know, people having this weird feeling. I think after all is said and done, I'm just hopeful. I don't know. I feel differently. I feel like it's not going to be the same, but I feel like we're going to be yearning so much for that sensory feeling of being around each other that it's going to be difficult to go back to just being 6 feet apart. You know, it's hard.
Listen, I saw some pictures that you posted recently. It was a little memory of Carnival, okay? And if that isn't a street festival and a period of time where people are close together, the camaraderie and the conviviality and everything is like on top of one another. I say that kind of jokingly, but I mean it sincerely. And that is, when do we get back to that where we don't have to think in the back of our minds, are we doing the right thing? It's going to take time. It's going to take time. There will be a vaccine that's developed at some point. It will kind of give us some breathing space, and we'll get back to it. But there's going to be some trauma that all of us carry with us in life. I was talking again to Callie about, you know, how her young children are relating to it. And what does it mean when they get older? What will their memories be versus what our memories will be? And how will it help shape their futures? This is one of the few things in life where the entire world is going to have to pause for a minute and think about how it affects their lives moving forward. And we're just not used to that. You know, that's just, it's usually very regional, geographic.
True.
So it's going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot of psychiatrists and psychologists that make a lot of money on this. It's
Oh
like
boy.
roofers during the hurricane season.
I
Okay.
know. And
It's
by the way, we're speaking on 420. I don't know if that was just like serendipitous, but
right. That's true.
hey.
That's
Let's see what
one
happens
of the,
after this.
yeah, one of the national holidays of your country. Um,
Listen, we don't need a holiday to smoke weed in Jamaica. Not for me, but I just know for everybody else they don't need a holiday. So speaking of pre-COVID and just kind of reminiscing about things, I kind of wanted to kind of talk with you about your experiences because obviously you're focused on culinary related events and marketing. So
mhm.
what does that mean and what have been your favorite events to date and the craziest events you've ever done?
Wow. Okay. So that's a loaded question. That's very much
Very
like
much.
trying to pick my favorite child,
Yeah.
which after this last month of being sequestered, I could probably do, although I'll do it at a different time.
Privately,
Um,
let's do that privately.
privately. Look, the pre-COVID stuff. I mean, Cream was at a very good place in our business history. We were really seeing some diversity in the events that we were involved with, and we love that. Like anybody, I mean, to work on the same type of event, cycle after cycle after cycle, doesn't give us the opportunity to really push our boundaries and to be as creative as possible. So. I don't know if I think each event that we work on, Kimmy, represents something different to us. The wine and food festivals, I think, will always be the nearest and dearest in our hearts, both the
Hmm.
South Beach and the New York, because I cut my teeth on it. Callie cut her teeth on it. We
I did.
love the infrastructure, right? We love
Hmm.
the people, and we feel like we have the greatest family in those two festivals. So I love the fact that they're at two different times of the year and that we get to see that ebb and flow of those festivals, and they really do become our favorite. Super Bowl that we've been involved with for the last 3 or 4 years now is a super exciting, really big story for us,
It's
as you
insane.
witnessed yourself this
Yeah.
past cycle in Miami. We've already had our first call for Tampa, and who knows whether Super Bowl happens or not yet, right? But you have to at least start having your calls about it. That's a completely different type of event that we really relish. And it's cool to see it because from the for-profit versus the not-for-profit
That was,
perspective
yeah,
is an amazing dichotomy between those two spaces. They couldn't be more
absolutely.
diametrically. Lee does a great job of pushing people as hard as possible to get as much as possible, spending as little as possible. And
Right.
that's very worthy because all that money is nonprofit. Super Bowl is like, how much money can we spend, right?
Oh my
I
God,
mean,
I
it
think that was
gets,
the most insane thing I've ever gone through in my life.
it's
I
crazy.
literally walked around that whole, I don't mean to cut you, but that really just blew me. Like going back to that Super Bowl experience. And think about it for me, Randy. I don't know if you watch football. I don't know a lick of American football. So for me, it's never been about the game. It's been about the logistics of the game. It's like watching the Oscars or watching the Grammys.
Mhm.
And I've always been fascinated with halftime at Super Bowl. Like, how the hell do they do this in 30 seconds? And to be there and to see that, and just to see the amount of money that people are willing to spend for that half an hour, for the 90 minutes of the game, or however long the game is, it's incredulous to me. Like I can't even put into words what that was like. I think I genuinely felt like I was living an out of body experience being
Yeah,
at that stadium this year. I
yeah.
was completely and utterly blown away.
It's really incredible, and everything that you described. The cool thing about it for us and for you included is to be able to be included in the conversations and to work on it.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's from an from event producer's perspective. That to me is ideal. And then Callie and I, Kareem, and the whole team got involved in 2018 after the Parkland shooting. We got
Mm,
involved with a festival called Actions for Change. That was probably one of the most emotional events that we ever were involved with. In fact, it was the most emotional. We were dealing with parents who just a few months before had lost their children to a horrific and utterly violent act, shameful act. And they were banding together to create an event focusing on the culinary arts to feed people's soul and to bring music and life and light to them. And we were able to dialogue with them and produce the event for them. So the question for me would never be an easy one. What is my favorite event? My response would be that each event really is a little piece of my soul, because we
Yeah.
give, and my team gives everything. They leave it all out on the field. It's like
Yeah.
football when the coach says leave it all out on the field. We really do, and it's not rhetoric. I mean, we really dig in. We've cried together, we've laughed together, we've slept in a production trailer together. Whatever it takes, we get it done.
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes part of your DNA. You can't look back. I mean, at a certain point, you can't look back, but you look forward and you take those little things with you. So, you know, you were out in Aspen. Devin
Oh
Paget was
gosh.
gracious to ask us to produce a really special event in Aspen for him. That was a real kick for us and very exciting. So we've had a great run. It's going to be on a temporary hold, like for all of us at this
Mm-hmm.
point.
It's like forced vacation.
We'll right, exactly.
Not
And
quite.
we'll take that time to figure out how to kind of rebuild for the future. But it's hard to pick a favorite. Whichever one I'm working with you on, that's my favorite, girl.
Good answer, Randy. Very good diplomatic answer. So I'm kind of going through some of the comments that we have here. Just
I
want to
can't even
say
see him.
big up to Eddie, who is a DJ and multimedia specialist in Miami. He actually does quite a bit for Dwayne Wade, and he goes, "Yeah, Super Bowl was crazy. That's the money that I have to spend right now." Kudos to
Yeah,
you, Eddie.
yeah.
Andrew actually asked us, "What are we doing to stay creative during this time?"
Well, I'm spending a lot of time outdoors, to be honest with you, and
Mm.
I'm actually writing. So
Oh,
I'm
amazing.
either outside with a laptop or some other writing device, and I'm writing. And it could be just stream of consciousness writing. It could be plans
Mm.
for the future writing. But creative writing was always something that I gravitated towards and loved. I enjoy the art of writing. So that's kind of keeping me busy. I've also been doing a lot of cooking,
I've noticed.
much more, much
I've
more than I
noticed. I
typically
think we
do.
all
Yeah,
have, whether or not we want to.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And obviously a lot of eating as well. And that's part of creature comfort, right? Because we
Hmm.
nourish ourselves with food and we nourish our soul with food, as long as you don't take it too far out of the boundaries. Um, and the other thing that I've done that I think's kind of kept me sane is having conversations with people, long conversations that are typically, hey, how's it going? What's up? Let me help you out. And it's over. I'm having like 30, 40-minute, hour conversations with people and get off the phone. I'm like, wow, that was a great conversation. So
Yeah.
conversing, writing, cooking, all those things. What about you? How are you keeping it together?
Well, in between managing two toddlers, 2-year-old
Yeah.
and a 4-year-old, and trying to navigate through homeschooling, I don't even know. I'm grateful that I'm a little bit of a creative, so that I'm not like completely put off by doing arts and crafts, because I've been doing a lot of that recently. Um, Lots of ABCs on toilet paper rolls, let me tell you. Um, cooking, definitely cooking more, which is a little difficult sometimes, because again, with two toddlers it's kind of hard, I mean, I don't know if you've been following Chef Logan, but she's been making lots of cupcakes and cakes, none of which she eats, by the way, but we're trying. So what ends up happening is that she cooks it and then I eat it. So I'm trying to manage the weight in between that portion. But I think, to your point, like the connection, I'm kind of reaching out more to people that I wouldn't normally, and kind of being a little bit more vulnerable, and
Mhm.
less guarded. I don't think I was ever really guarded before, but I think I've just kind of been open to talking to people more and kind of getting feedback on what they're doing and how they're feeling.
Mhm.
And just, whether it's at midnight with Melanie, or, on a random Sunday, I'll call Zori and be like, hey, what are you doing? What are your parents doing? Having just random text
Mhm.
messages with people that you don't reconnect with in a long time. Um, that's kind of what's been keeping me going. And just thinking of the what's next, because again,
Right.
while, as you say, the food connection and the event connection is the analog version, like digitally, yes, it's great to think about all of these things that we can do digitally, but I do feel like some of us are truly made up for that human emotional connection. And
Mhm.
so I'm just kind of I keep looking forward to the what's next. I have quite a bit of wedding couples actually, who are kind of looming around trying to figure out what to do. And my advice for them is focus, focus on the love, and focus on the moment that's going to make you the happiest. So if you want to elope, elope. If you're okay with two people being there and that's the route you want to take, and then you have a wedding reception later, then go ahead. But if you really want your day, then there's no rush in the day, because
Mhm.
it'll happen when it needs to happen. Timing
Right.
is you know, the universe speaks to you when it needs to happen, and I just feel like things always happen when they're supposed to. And so I've just kind of just been comforting them, knowing that, look, this is not anything that any of us could have predicted, but let's just keep working on it so you have something to look forward to. Like, this is what you've been building up for so long. You know, let it continue the way it should. and,
Right.
and don't
Absolutely.
rush things. You know, as you said, the difference with working in the US and working here is that we have an ability to kind of just slow things down a little bit and take some time to go outside and reflect and look at what we're trying to accomplish. And I think that you should just take that time, take a deep breath outside, walk in the morning, meditate, cuss somebody off if you need to, have a drink at 8 a.m. if you want to, like whatever makes you sane, you know, figure it
Right.
out. I don't know, but
Right.
I guess that's for me, that's what I've just been trying to do. And writing a little bit too. There are a lot of things that I just kind of, it happens for me at night though. So I'm nocturnal. So for
Hmm.
me, it's, I get through the day, I get through the kids and keeping them active and do bedtime. And, you know, Dwayne's also a morning person while I'm a night person. So he'll go to sleep. And at night is when my brain turns on, you know? So I kind
Hmm.
of start to write things down. And I had a friend of mine say, you know, don't forget to write the things that you're grateful for, and write down your dreams and let those dreams be, you know, repetitive so that you're constantly looking towards them rather than, you know, thinking in reflection that they could have happened. Look towards them
Right.
so that you have
Yeah.
something to kind of constantly motivate you. So
Yeah.
that's what I've been trying to do, you know, and doing
Yeah.
things like this with you guys. We get to reconnect, we get to talk about stuff, get to talk about crazy ass stories that nobody can ever imagine. I mean, I think we should bring up a few of them right now, actually, Randy.
Yeah,
I
you got to
mean,
be careful who's listening, Kimmy. That's the only problem.
I don't
But
care at this point. I mean, I was having this conversation with Lee about the festival and some memories, and I was actually talking to him about even the barbecue, you know, and let's really break this down. Like, we, you know, poor Heidi Liddell, God bless her soul, she sets up this amazing event. And this is the flip side of events that nobody talks about, nobody sees, nobody really wants to explain. And I remember distinctly exactly what I was wearing that night. I was super excited. We have all this beautiful Miami nightlife going on. It's 7 o'clock, doors open, and we have an amazing event for 3,000 people. And at 7:45, the skies open and we have a certifiable monsoon. And then the ambulance just starts going nuts because Bobby Flay's father has a heart attack in the middle of all of it. I'm in the auction
yeah.
tent, you know, the water is up to my knee. Somebody's arguing in the auction tent. They're stealing magnums of Moet. There are people
Right.
running off down Ocean Drive with Kelly Murphy's tablecloths.
It was bedlam.
It was
Bedlam.
complete and utter chaos. Like, I have never to this day, that has been something. I tell people, I don't care what you say, you are tenting your food and you're tenting your bar, because that
Yeah.
scarred me for life.
That
For
changed
life.
a lot of things in our little festival world. That storm, my greatest memory of that storm was standing in the middle of the courtyard when it just started to sprinkle. And I ran up to Lee. I said, and Lee, you know, doesn't like to talk about weather. It's an absolute no-no. You cannot talk about weather
True.
because it just does, it vexes you, right? So
Yeah.
I walked up to Lee. It started to sprinkling. I said, Lee, what do you think? And he's like, it's going to pass right over us. And I'm like, okay, if that's, listen, he's the man, he knows. And it was, I got to tell you, I was born in Miami. At that time of the year, I have never seen a rainstorm like that. It was a 100-year storm. And
Yeah, I agree.
the women, I mean, I felt horrible, but it became like and I hope this doesn't offend anybody, but it became like a wet t-shirt contest on steroids because all the women were dressed beautifully. It was a very elegant event, if people remember. And people, like you
All
said, they're
white.
grabbing bottles of champagne in the
Mm-hmm.
rain, soaking wet. And it started getting, here's the other thing that people don't understand. It sounds like it's fun and funny, but then there's the life safety issues
Oh,
because
yeah.
you have
Cable
wires
wires.
running, right?
Yep.
And you have propane tanks. And so we were all saying, like, how are we going to get people out of here without getting hurt? So it was like humorous for about a nanosecond, and then all the things happen. But the cool thing about it is that everybody kind of gets into their official role. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't think that anybody, and I don't remember that anybody got hurt from the water storm happening, other than
No.
obviously
Other
Bobby's
than,
father which was a
Yeah.
completely isolated incident. But I think everybody got home safely.
And as
But you're
Kimmy
right. I
Spence
mean,
reminds me, the reimbursements for the Gucci shoes that the women were wearing
oh
because,
my God.
they had to wear Gucci
It,
shoe, high heel shoes in the sand.
I mean, it was, I think Ashley Shapiro at one point, I mean, it was like knee height water walking
Oh
back
yeah,
to the car. It was
absolutely. It was to my knee.
unbelievable.
Yeah,
And
it
so,
was
yeah,
unreal.
that super, super memorable event for me was that event.
Well, I have to tell you that actually happened to me at a wedding 2 years
Oh,
ago.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was covering a wedding for a friend, and it was actually the week before I was getting married. And she went off to have her baby. And this wedding was 300 and something people. Amazing, beautiful location. Had their wedding ceremony in a river, like fully decked out, the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. And we're getting ready for dinner service. And literally, the father of the bride has started his speech, and we just hear lightning and then
Oh, Lord.
thunder. And for 45 minutes, it poured like it did at the barbecue, to the point where I am in the tent. Melanie was with me, actually, and Erin, who is online right now. And we're standing in the corner of the tent, looking at the coffee machine sparking fire. The
Oh my God.
generator goes, the sound goes, the lighting guys are running through a mud pit to try to get to their equipment. And thank God they were who they were, because what we did was we just ran to the bar and gave people tequila bottles. And I remember having lots of very prominent people come to me, what can we do? And I said, even if you brought a generator right now, ain't nobody hooking that up in this rain. So we just have to let it work. So we gave them tequila, and they just started singing to each other for about an hour. And they got
It's incredible what
so
tequila does.
wasted, like so drunk. They were just passing wine bottles to each other at the table and everything. And I'm literally standing there going, this cannot be real life. Like, and nobody would never believe me. And
Mhm.
the night ended with me being in a portable toilet with the bride, drunk bride, with her telling me to cut her wedding dress because she's sick and tired of walking around with a wedding dress in mud. And I had witnesses say, please look at me right now, guys, and tell me that she is not telling me to cut her expensive wedding dress. And she's like, cut the effing dress. And I'm like, okay. So I'm hacking her wedding dress in a portable toilet as people are having a peeing. And
That is
she
right
had the
out of
time
a
of her
movie.
life. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
People have no idea. I remember getting ready, switching over from barbecue, or I think it was Burger Bash actually, to Italian night during Sobe. Or
Hmm.
remember when it was in reverse?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember it was Spike Mendelssohn's station, because I remember cussing him out royally about it. He was making milkshakes, and his
Yep.
station was horrendous. And we were turning over the space. I mean, we're doing this event for 4,000,
I
and we happened
remember.
to turn it over. And
Hmm.
I remember going to station, and you guys are like so busy trying to like figure out all the chefs and everything. And he has his milkshake machine full of milk, like stale milk there. And then there's like old burger meat and like buns and everything. And I was trying to find the nearest trash can to put all this stuff. I was like ready to throw the milkshake machine around. I'm like, I'm sorry, the facility will have to pay for this. But
Yeah, that would have screwed us big time because
oh, I'm
we
sure.
rented that. Yeah, we would have
Oh,
gotten
of course, yeah.
charged that.
But don't
Yeah.
worry, I made sure we
Thanks.
covered it. I made
Thank
sure
you,
we
girl.
covered it. But these are the things. These are the moments that people have no idea. They show up, the event's great, everything's beautiful, but they have no idea what we go through on the back end. You know?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that is that's our responsibility. Our responsibility is to make sure that people don't see what happens behind the curtain. I mean, that's really critical. Um, and I think that what what works well for us is to plan and over plan and hyper plan and then to expect the worst that can possibly happen. One thing we can't fight is we can't fight Mother Nature.
Yeah.
Anytime we've had something blow up on us, it's been Mother Nature.
Mm-hmm.
At Metopia with Josh Ozersky, uh, one year we had the second hottest day in recorded history in Manhattan, and it was the day of Metopia, and we were on a cement pier. You could actually cook the meat right on the pier, right? And so it really affected his ticket sales. The next year we had tornado warnings, and we were rehearsing plans for that. So like Mother Nature, it's like man plans, God laughs. That's
Absolutely.
what event producers have to be prepared for. But the
Mm-hmm.
guys that are the most successful never break. They just like they're prepared, they're mentally prepared for the eventuality, and they have a plan in place. And that's something that Callie and I preach to our team all the time, is that we just have to expect the worst, plan for the best, and expect the worst. And
Yeah.
if you're that way, you don't break.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the truth. I mean, you can't have a meltdown when you have 3,000 people at your gate ready to come into your event. You know,
Right.
what do you do at that point?
They don't care. They don't
Yeah,
care.
they paid their money, they're ready to go.
Right.
So
Yep.
we've been on now for 45 minutes, which is amazing. What's the takeaway from this? You know, as we continue to live our lives and look out for the best of what we would like to, you know, hope for is going to happen tomorrow. You know, what's keeping you going and looking forward to other things, and what are you going to then impart to other people as we go along through this process?
It's a great question, and it's part of my it's like part of my personal philosophy anyway in life. Kimmy, for me, the events business is a livelihood. It doesn't define me, but it's a livelihood, and I love it. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I love the excitement, I love the challenge, I love the disappointment, and I love the elation. And so I'm in love with the industry. But I also know that we are planning parties, and we're not bringing peace to the world. We're not curing horrible disease. We're not stopping war and famine. We're planning parties. And so I come out of this the same way that I went into it, and that is that I understand that we play an important role in the overall entertainment of human beings, but we're not all that, and that we have to remember that the one thing that we all have in common is that we are human beings. And so maybe it makes me even more hypersensitive to be kinder to people on the way out. Not necessarily because I'm not kind going into it, but because I think that people are really going to need that kindness to help us get back to where we were. It's going to have to be a little bit more pausing for a minute and saying, how'd you get through it? How do you feel? What do you need? What did you need? Teach me something that you learned. I want to connect with people a little bit deeper and more often. And then I'm going to get back to planning great events. And you and I are going to play a role in people's lives that may be even more important than it was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Because it's going to remind people that we can once again celebrate life, and that we can raise a glass and say to life, l'chaim, or whatever other word we want to say, and that we really mean it. That's the important thing, to be genuine and authentic. When you raise your glass to life and cheers, let's really mean it. And let's think about how we can make life better all the time, constantly pushing to make the world a better place. It'll be through events, it'll be through medicine, it'll be through science, it'll be through teachers and nurses. And we play a role in that. And I will raise my hand to be part of that journey going forward. And that's my sharing a little bit of my personal philosophy in life. So thanks for the opportunity to share that.
Thank you. I mean, I want to take this opportunity. We spoke about mentorship, but you and I have shared some very, very deep personal conversations. I mean, you're one of the few people in the festival that actually met my mom before she died. And, you know, we shared a lot of deep moments together. And I think it's really important that we ended on this note and with you saying what you said. And I think having gone through a tragic sudden loss of a parent, and then going through again my father passing away in a longer prolonged period of time, I think I've had a little bit of hard knocks early. Not a lot of my friends have gone through that, but I think what it does is makes me realize the frivolity of life. And so, you know, one of the things that I try to impart on my kids is every day being able to enjoy, even if it's a 10-minute moment, because we're not going to be on all the time. You know, we can't. We we all go through, we're not on the same cycles. So I think for me, coming out of this is very much similar to your philosophy in looking forward to making those moments matter even more. You know, making those weddings matter more, making those chef dinners matter more, making those moments where you're actually taking the time and being intentional about sharing space matter more. Because that's what's gonna happen. We are gonna be a lot more intentional about who we share space with, and it's gonna be a lot less frivolous, I think. So, you know, thank you for really always being there and being charismatic. You've always been easy to talk to, easy to work with. inspiring in so many ways. I think, people always say, be careful what you do because people are always watching, and it's true. I think there are so many moments that we take for granted because you remembering that moments in the elevator is not something that would have come top of mind to me, but I remember, that you said it and how impactful it was for you. And I'm just happy that we were able to do that, and we still continue to share that, so.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more with you. You've been a great friend, a great mentor. I love you. I want you to know that, because I think people have to pause for a minute and don't be ashamed to let people know that they love them. I love you. And I only look forward to the continuation of our journey together. I think there's still great things that we'll do together, and we'll witness each other doing things independently. And I'll always be in your corner cheering you on. And I feel that way about you and many of the people whose names I saw pop up here. We have a great industry filled with wonderful people. We're doing great things. Let's just keep doing it, and we'll all get to the other side. I feel confident about that.
Yeah, me too. One quick question I see from Gary, who is actually one of the chefs from Taste Jamaica. He's in Jamaica now, and he says, what do you think a post-COVID event might look like for the short term?
Well, it's a question I've been asked before. Here's what I think. Once we can gather again, I think what's going to happen is we're going to see smaller numbers, larger venues, but smaller numbers that are allowed in the venue. And I think we're also going to have to be more demonstrative about what we're doing on the food preparation side to ensure our guests feel comfortable eating and enjoying that food. Now, we all do it. Like, we're all very hip about life safety and health department, and it's usually because the health department is there. But I think we may have to be more demonstrative. And I hate to get to sneeze guards and chefs wearing, pieces of plastic, but we're going to have to slowly educate our guests that we have their best interest at heart, and that we're going to take care to serve them the healthiest food in the most healthy way possible. So I think you'll see smaller events with more room per guest and more attention given to the health matters in the preparation of the food. And then we'll learn lessons from that, and then we will slowly get right back to those 25,000 Burger Bash events and all that kind of great stuff. It's going to happen again. And listen, we have the 20th anniversary of South Beach coming up in 2021. And there are big plans for that, and we've got to make sure that we get to that. So let's get everybody healthy. Let's all pay attention to what the CDC and everybody else who's smart says, and let's beat this thing so we can get back to work and have some fun, girl.
I'm all for that. And thank you for being the guinea pig, as Brett says. So for everybody.
Right, Brett Friedman.
Oh, gosh. So
like I said to Brett, always go with your strongest horse first, girl. Thanks for picking me first.
Thank you for being the first guest there, Randy.
Okay, girl. Anything I can do for you. That was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
Let's do it again. We don't have to do it on Insta Live this time, though. Let's pressure.
Absolutely. We'll have a private conversation. All right. Thank you. Talk to you soon. God bless. Love you, girl. Take care. Okay. Bye. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Really, really appreciate it. Join me tomorrow. If you have any questions, DM